Decision to walk away might arise from years of internalizing frustrations or the realization that his needs and boundaries have been compromised. The decision is often fueled by the necessity to regain control over his own life, his time, his energy, and his emotional state. When a man decides to pull away, it's rarely impulsive. It's a culmination of unspoken needs, repressed emotions, and growing dissatisfaction. However, the emotional journey is much more complicated for the woman involved. She wasn't prepared for. Her sense of identity may feel threatened, as women often derive a sense of self-worth from their relationships and the way they are perceived in the eyes of others, particularly in romantic connections. A man walking away can make her question whether she is still desirable, whether she was enough, or whether she is losing her value in his eyes. Her emotional state fluctuates between confusion, anger, fear, and self-reflection. She may even begin to blame herself, wondering if she did something wrong or if there was something inherently lacking in her approach to the relationship. The emotional aftermath for her doesn't stop at mere sadness. As time progresses, she may experience the moment a man withdraws. It's as if the emotional fuel that powered her sense of self-esteem is suddenly cut off. Without the reassurance of his presence, she may feel lost, disoriented, and unsure of her emotional footing. His absence leaves her with a massive gap that she must now attempt to fill. But the question becomes, how does one fill the void left by someone who once was her emotional anchor? This dramatic shift in emotional energy creates an identity crisis. The woman may find herself looking inward, questioning her choices, her worth, and how much of her identity was tied to the man she just lost. This internal struggle often leads to self-doubt, followed by attempts to rationalize the situation. She may start rewriting the narrative of the relationship, trying to convince herself that she was the one who made the right decision. Did she dismiss his feelings? Did she become too complacent, expecting his affection to be guaranteed? As she begins to examine herself, the truth she might not want to face becomes clear. She was taking the relationship for granted, and now she has to confront the emptiness left in its wake. For both the man and the woman, the emotional and psychological consequences of walking away aren't just short-term reactions. They shape how they will engage in future relationships and how they will view themselves. For the man, it is an assertion of self-respect and the understanding of self-worth. It forces both individuals to rethink their approach to love, affection, and what it means to truly be valued. For the woman, it becomes not just about winning him back, but about rediscovering her own strength, self-worth, and identity apart from the man. It challenges her to look within and determine if she can find the validation she seeks from within, rather than relying on another person's presence to define her value. Phase 1. Shock and denial. The illusion cracks. When a man decides to walk away, the initial reaction of the woman is typically one of shock and denial. For most women, the concept of a man walking away is an alien experience. Women are often accustomed to receiving attention, affection, and admiration. From a young age, many women are socialized to expect to be pursued, valued, and cherished. Being chased is often seen as a symbol of validation, keeps the relationship at the forefront. She feels secure in the knowledge that he is deeply invested in her. Now, suddenly, his responses become infrequent, and his presence starts to diminish. The texts go unanswered for hours, and the dates aren't as frequent. At first, she might tell herself, he's just busy with work, or maybe he's going through something personal. He'll come around. In her mind, this is just a temporary phase, a blip in an otherwise steady connection. But as the days pass and the distance between them grows, the truth begins to sink in, although she may fight it. This phase of disbelief is often a defense mechanism, a way of protecting her ego and keeping her self-esteem intact. To admit that he might have truly lost interest would be to admit vulnerability, and that is a place she isn't ready to go. So, she clings to the illusion that things are just fine, that this is temporary, and that he will eventually set. It isn't just a simple rejection of her, it's an affront to the control she's always had. This sends her into confusion and emotional disarray. She might feel lost in her own emotions, not knowing how to handle the new dynamics. The relationship, which once felt so predictable and secure, is now in flux, and she may not know how to regain her footing. The truth is beginning to seep in, but she might not be ready to face it. Denial is her mind's way of buying her some time, allowing her to delay the pain of realizing the relationship. The power she once held in the relationship begins to slip from her fingers, and she's left grasping at anything that will help her regain that sense of authority. This is when the games begin. She might find herself playing small mental tricks, telling herself, "He will come back when he realizes I'm not chasing him." But deep down, the truth is setting in, and it is terrifying. Phase 2. Self, doubt, and reflection. The cracks widen. As the days pass, and the man does not reach out, her confusion slowly morphs into self-doubt and day. These thoughts swirl around her head, leading her to spend more time doubting her abilities, her attractiveness, and her worth as a partner. This self-doubt often spills over into other areas of her life. She might become more withdrawn or self-conscious in social settings as her mind fixates on what is happening with him. Her world becomes consumed with the idea of losing control. Her identity, which was previously anchored in the attention and affection she received from him, now feels fragile. She might even try to regain control by overcompensating in other areas, inevitably comma-rationalization, and this is where the emotional cycle begins to spiral even deeper. Phase 3. Rationalization, rewriting the narrative. As the woman grapples with the emotional turbulence of rejection and confusion, she enters a crucial phase of coping rationalization. The rejection, the silence, and the emotional void left by the man's absence are too overwhelming to accept at face value. To protect her ego and shield herself from the pain, she begins to rewrite the narrative in her mind. In this phase, instead of fully confronting the reality that she may have lost someone who truly stood up to her and challenged her, she tries to convince herself that it wasn't a loss at all. The man's departure must be framed in a way that preserves her self-image and deflects any blame or responsibility. Instead, she is seeking something far simpler, a boost to her ego. A man who will give her attention and affirm her worth can help her ignore the uncomfortable feelings of loss and rejection. But the rebound relationship, while providing a temporary escape, is almost always built on shaky ground and is rarely successful in the long run. Sarah, still reeling from the emotional withdrawal of the man who left, decides to jump into a relationship with Tom. Tom, unlike the man who walked away, is infatuated with her from the start. He showers her with attention, dotes on her, and does everything in his power to make her feel special. At first, Sarah feels a sense of relief. Tom makes her feel desired, and for a brief moment, her wounds from the past relationship are soothed. Her self-esteem receives an instant boost, and the pain of losing the man who left seems to fade into the background. In many ways, Tom's eager, unrelenting attention fulfills the emotional void she has been grappling with. But as time passes, Sarah begins to notice cracks in this temporary fix. Tom is too eager, too compliant. He doesn't challenge her, doesn't make her feel like she's needed in the same way the man who left did. The excitement she once experienced from the push and pull dynamic in her previous relationship is absent. Instead, Tom's constant affection feels suffocating, and Sarah begins to lose interest. The emotional highs that were initially so comforting begin to plateau, leaving her feeling unfulfilled and restless. Soon, Sarah finds herself thinking about the man who walked away. Even though he no longer reaches out, he occupies her mind far more than Tom does. The truth is, Tom doesn't provide the same thrill of power she once felt in the earlier relationship. When she had the man who left, there was dynamism, a challenge, a sense of control. Tom's eagerness is a contrast to the distance and mystery she once found exhilarating. In the moment, the rebound serves its purpose, a quick ego boost. But it never lasts because she's not looking for love, she's looking for validation. Why the rebound never lasts? While the rebound relationship may seem to solve the immediate problem of feeling unwanted or undesired, it is inherently flawed. The key issue is that the woman is not seeking true emotional connection, but rather temporary reassurance. You're in pain. There's no way around it. Whether she left you or you initiated the breakup, the emotional aftermath is often a massive storm of conflicting emotions. Heartbreak is a gut-wrenching process, and it can feel like the end of everything. But here's the profound truth. Pain is power. Pain is not something you should fear. It's a resource. Every emotion you're feeling, sadness, regret, anger, loneliness, is simply energy. And energy can be transformed into something powerful if you channel it the right way. So, what does that mean practically? Here's what it looks like. 1. Stop numbing yourself. Many men use distractions to avoid the pain. Alcohol, meaningless hookups, social media scrolling, mindless television watching. These activities temporarily mask the pain, but they do nothing to help you heal or transform. With renewed focus, or getting back into hobbies or passions you've neglected, this is your time to focus on you. Every time you feel the urge to reach out to her, use that moment to push yourself to grow. 3. Pain creates contrast. This is the part of the process that's transformational. Pain contrasts with pleasure and future heartbreaks, but unrecognizable to the version of yourself she left behind. 2. The power of no contact, creating the silent war. Now that you've started shifting your perspective on pain, it's time to talk about the most powerful strategy you can use in your emotional arsenal: no contact. The concept of no contact is deceptively simple. It's the decision to cut off all communication with your ex. No texts, no calls, no social media checking, no indirect messages through mutual friends. But to truly understand the depth of this tactic, we need to explore why it works and how it affects the mind. Why no contact works. 1. It creates an emotional void. When you completely disappear from her life, you create a void. Humans are naturally inclined to seek closure, resolution, and understanding. The absence of something or some creates a void in the mind. This absence can be a powerful trigger in your ex's psyche. 1. The role of dopamine and emotional addiction. Breakups trigger a dopamine withdrawal. In the brain, dopamine is often associated with reward and pleasure. When you're in a relationship, especially a passionate one, your brain becomes addicted to the dopamine highs of affection, attention. No contact is not just about ignoring her, it's about improving yourself. The longer you stay in the no contact phase, the more time you have to focus on your goals, physical fitness, mental well-being, and career. Use this time to redefine yourself. Every moment you spend bettering yourself is a moment you are moving beyond her and beyond the version of you she once knew. 2. Emotional mastery. Self-mastery also involves controlling your act phase. Your ex will begin to reach out. This is when you've reached the peak of your evolution. By the time she gets in touch, you will have transformed both emotionally and physically into someone completely different. You'll have already leveled up, and when you reconnect, if you choose to, you'll do so with the confidence and strength of a man who's... But what happens when you don't react? What happens when you remain calm, composed, and completely unshaken? That's when the power shifts. Most men crumble after a breakup. They let their emotions dictate their actions. They send long, emotional messages trying to explain themselves.